And they just sat me around a table, and I come in there, I'm all nervous, and they're just like, so, what kind of music do you listen to? What's your favorite movies? What do you like? I didn't even have money for food at home. I remember going in on like the weekend into the office when no one would be at the office, use my badge, get into the office and just eat like a plate full of beans. I saw what the problem was as my finger was going down. Like as it struck the enter key, immediately I was like, oh, that's wrong, fuck. When it comes to just like pure technology fuck ups, as a developer in my entire career to this day, that's probably the worst thing I ever did. At a coffee shop, and we shared a joint on the back deck of a cafe and got sandwiches, and I just like worked there for a couple hours, and I want to look straight in the camera and say, I'm sorry for sending that email. I was 100% out of line. It was not professional. I hadn't yet learned my lessons. Welcome to the woods. We're going to continue the career chats. I'm Sean. I'm a director of development for a medical SaaS industry app and on a small team that I lead. And I've been in the dev career space for 22 years. There's a lot of mosquitoes out here. And in this series, we're going job by job, every role I ever had along the way. So I just went to Portland, talked my friend into using a hallway essentially as my bedroom, in a house shared with like 5 other kids. By kids, I mean late 20s. Everybody trying to make it, trying to get their start in Portland. 0 in the bank account. I hit Craigslist every day, looked for any possible relevant jobs. This was the first time. I now had 2 dev jobs on my resume, which is a lot different than having 0 dev jobs on a resume and trying to get a dev job. And once again, I had no sense of like, how is a web agency different to work for than a software company? How is a startup different from a non-startup, or a private company or a public company? I had no sense of any of these things. I was just a programmer that wanted to do programming work. Anywhere where I could do that was where I was trying to go. Hopefully someplace kind of cool, a kind of cool app or a cool web agency or something. So this time things had just finally turned around after 6 months after the 2008 financial collapse. People were hiring aggressively to catch up for the times when they weren't hiring at all. We applied to about 40 jobs. It was like the 2nd or 3rd job I ever applied to, and they got back to me after like a week, and I ended up getting the job at an ad agency that did print, video, audio, and web. Look at where we are out here. It looks like just endless nature, but just like right beyond the view, there's just like shitty housing and industry. Cool spot. It's outside of Green Lake State Park. Mosquitoes were already smoking my arms. And what the interview consisted of, they had me come into the agency. I just interviewed with the lead tech guy. He liked me, came back for a 2nd round. And at the 2nd round interview, they had the whole company there, maybe 8 people or something. There was more people than that at the company, but at this particular office. And they just sat me around a table, and I come in there, I'm all nervous, and they're just like, so, what kind of music do you listen to? What's your favorite movies? What do you like? And I had never encountered that there would ever be a job interview like that. I never had one like that before. Because this is the ad industry. They don't want a nerdy guy who's totally out of touch with pop culture, who's just gonna write code and has no other skills. They want someone cool that's like funny and knows what's up with pop culture. My personal portfolio site, I was already like tuned into that. So I had a fully branded, like I already had like a personal brand. But the thing was, it wasn't focused because I had not enough industry experience yet. So it was all over the place. It was like, I'm Sean, I've made this website, I made that website. Here's my photography. Here's a skate video I made. I'm multi-talented. I've got a branding eye. That was kind of what I got the job with. And so they liked me. I made people laugh. They liked my movie taste and my music taste. And I remember, making everyone laugh, maybe intentionally or unintentionally. But they thought I was quirky and hip, and they thought I could handle the development, so I got the job. So the salary was $50,000. Once again, I had no negotiating skills, negotiating experience, didn't know, never did the research of what I should be worth. And I just accepted the first offer and I was ready. I was like, okay, all the bullshit's behind me. That working 3-job shit in college and then working for too little of pay. Now I'm making like $10,000 more than that. It's gonna solve all my problems. This company's really hip. I'm gonna be able to have really cool work in my portfolio by working here. And I'm ready to just, this was my mindset. I'm like, I'm ready to just like put in years here. I'll be here for 10 years is what I thought. I'll be buying my first house in Portland in probably a year or two. I'll just not spend any money really. I'll try to save all my salary. I'll probably buy a house in an inner city Portland neighborhood. And this is what everyone always told me, how the arc of life goes is you graduate, get married, get a job, buy a house. This is what everyone always said. And I'm like, cool, this is it. I'm finally, I'm on my path. So once again, intro level salary should have been about 65 to 75K for the work I was doing in Portland at this time. That's what intro, fresh out of college, that's what the salary should have been. And this was already my 3rd job out of college and I'm still failing to secure offers that are market competitive. I'm still getting under market offers. So here I was in the ad agency world. Clients were like LG Electronics, Panasonic, Nike, Mackie, the audio equipment. In the web agency world of Portland, coming from Eugene where there was 3 to 5 small-time mom and pop web shops, coming from that into this world of Portland. And now there's an actual tech industry. And even just amongst advertising agencies, you have tiers. There's like probably 50 mom and pop web shops that'll slap your website together and do your branding and contractors and stuff like that. And then there's like the low grade ones that probably have a storefront, a brick and mortar storefront, and their clients are just like small to medium businesses. Then there's like the A grade and B grade agencies, and this is where I would place this agency that I worked with. We're like an A- agency or a B+ agency, like genuinely pretty good, pretty sharp creative work when it came to copywriting and art direction, and pretty sharp, pretty current, pretty with it. And some of our clients were like S tier, like I said, Nike, guys like that. I was on the website, so I'd be doing whatever websites would go along with work like that to complement video and ad campaigns. I was so fucking broke starting this job, 0 in the bank account, barely even having stable housing, showing up to the job at first, you know, sleeping on floors in a giant shared group house. I had stocked the fridge and the cupboards at work with like stuff for me to eat during lunch while I was there. I'm talking like cans of baked beans that were like 90 cents and like tofu hot dogs and like a cheap loaf of bread. This is like I survived on that starting this job. I can remember the first couple weeks of starting, I didn't even have money for food at home. I remember going in on like the weekend into the office when no one would be at the office, use my badge, get into the office and just eat like a plate full of beans, wash my dish so nobody noticed because I had the beans in the cupboard there. Literally just eating beans, trying to make it, waiting for the first paychecks. I was embarrassed of, like I was raised as a street dude. I was just involved in skateboarding growing up. I spent all my time growing up in back alleys and random urban places and skate parks and wearing cut-off jeans and being a little punk. And no one ever told me that you had to dress a certain way or look a certain way, or no one ever taught me about professionalism. And even if I did know about professionalism, I couldn't afford the right clothes. I couldn't afford a nice button-up shirt or anything. I had no money. So right away I was really self-conscious starting the job there in just my shitty, 2 years outgrown cut-off jeans and my thrift store shirts. 3 or 4 developers out of this office, but we worked shoulder to shoulder with a couple project managers. The CEO would drop in every few days, motion graphics guy, video guy, graphic designer, a copywriter, out of this tiny office. So the vibe, coming from a sweatshop environment where the whip is cracked and you just be a code monkey and write code, coming from that, the vibe was like, oh, this is a creative environment that's like relaxed. And it was kind of like what I always heard of about modern tech jobs. Like there was like a liquor cabinet. Nobody, like I've never been a drinker. I never even drink beer or anything. But there was a liquor cabinet and there'd be like beers in the fridge and no one would care if you pour up an alcoholic drink, grab a beer, 3 p.m, last couple hours of the day. It was like part of the thing. Like they were influenced by like the Mad Men series of the way an ad agency was depicted in that. They were like directly influenced by that and trying to be as cool as that, trying to be hip and like, no, drinking is how you get the ideas flowing. Like, so I just bike commute 5 to 10 minutes, enjoyed it. The Pearl District is basically kind of the ritzy, exclusive area of downtown. It's considered at this time at least, as the rich side of town. And I'm just a trashy street boy with no good clothes, showing up to work every day in the Pearl District. First year I was there, like spent a lot of money on better clothes that I would be less embarrassed by, and got a nicer bike I'd be less embarrassed by to ride into work. And any given day of work, I'd be shoulder to shoulder with these creative people, ad campaign people, video guys, copywriters, designers. And no matter what the campaign was, if it was a video project, the video guy would run it by all of us. And we'd just kind of shoot the shit. We'd go for walks around the Pearl District, go to whatever new cafes opened up. We would all go there together. And we'd just sit around and talk about the project. Beautiful birds singing out here. I'm sure you can hear that. It's like right overhead, I think. And all of a sudden I was in a place where I was valued for my creativity, inspired by really, I'm talking talented people, the most talented designers and video guys, and I just felt like accepted and non-judged. So I did some good work at this agency. I did some good stuff. Ended up getting me all the later jobs that I got are strongly attributed to this agency and my work there. Gave me rock solid portfolio pieces. But in this series, I like sharing things that I really fucked up. So I'm gonna share a couple of those. LG Electronics, they had a custom training program, an entire course for any sales rep in the country that was going to be selling LG equipment, TVs, washers, dryers, like a handful of specific types of appliances. They had this whole training program course that they hired our ad agency to design. There was videos, there was actors, and then I built a custom database and app that was like a step-by-step quiz. And then it would track everybody's scores, save everybody's responses. And then there was different like prize levels. If you got 100%, you could get like bonus prizes for the employees and stuff. And I built it. That was one of my first projects there. So one day, I think every developer has done something like this at one point. The thing is deployed live, thousands of people using it for training, submitting responses. And one day it's like 4:50 p.m. on like in the later end of the week, and I'm exhausted from the work day. I'm trying to get out there and go skate. And they're like, oh, we need this one quick thing updated. And I'm like, oh, it's just a single flag in the database. We just have to flip one thing. In your typical web shop, most people probably were not enforcing any kind of formalized. This is before the cloud computing era. So there was no deployment pipeline set up. So I had a manual script I would run to manually export a full copy of the database before making any changes, save it locally. Then I would run my command so that if anything broke, I could upload that backup real quick and just fix what I did. That was what I was doing at the time. And I was just like so confident trying to get out of the office, and I typed my query by hand. I typed a MySQL query into the terminal. I just left off the last part of the clause of a SQL query where it's like da 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 condition, and then like where ID equals 1 or something. I left that off, just the last little part. I was like absent-minded and trying to save time, and I hadn't run the backup command for the database. And what ended up happening is I deleted like 3 months worth of customer responses in this app. And we went into full disaster mode, damage control mode, working with the server provider over the next day. We were able to resurrect partial, like a month and a half of the backups or something. So like 5 weeks or 4 weeks or something, or 3 weeks of data was still unrecoverable since the last backup snapshot that anybody had. And I felt so bad and so stupid. And as I hit the enter key to submit that SQL query, to do that update, I saw what the problem was as my finger was going down. Like as it struck the enter key, immediately I was like, oh, that's wrong, fuck. So that was probably, when it comes to just like pure technology fuck ups as a developer in my entire career to this day, that's probably the worst thing I ever did. So I said what my salary was, 50K, but that might have been better 10 years before. But the cost of living was going up along with salaries going up. It wasn't keeping pace. The salaries weren't keeping pace. So I was basically living the same standard of life as I had, which is paycheck to paycheck. The only difference was now I had a nice bike. Now I could buy a beater 20-year-old car. Now I could eat out like a few times a month. Maybe once a week I could eat out or something. That was the difference in the quality of my lifestyle. And after that, it was just same old shit as I'd always known, just paycheck to paycheck, trying to pay rent, trying to make it, no savings acquiring at all. At every job I had up to this point, every developer job for years, so for 5 years, I had been begging every boss that I had, like, please just let me work remotely. There's no reason for me to be in this office, and I do a lot worse work when I'm in the office. There's way more distractions. Just let me work remotely. And nobody, it was not a widespread thing in 2005, 2007. Like, that was pretty rare. Only the most senior people with the most elite jobs were really working a full-time remote kind of schedule. And maybe if your company was super cool, they would let you work a little bit part-time, but you're online, but you're still expected to be in office all the time. So another key memory of this stage of my career, any chance I could get, I was trying to work online. And I also got a really nice company-issued Mac laptop. That was a first for me too, like an expensive Mac laptop. A memory that stands out is one of the first times I ever took them up on, worked like half a day remotely, and I met up with a friend at a coffee shop, and we shared a joint on the back deck of a cafe and got sandwiches, and I just like worked there for a couple hours, and I just had the hugest smile on my face. It's just like, oh my God, I'm a full ass adult for the first time. I'm like in charge of my own time. I can be trusted to work remotely, and I'm just having the greatest time in a really cool city with my friend eating the dank sandwich. That was the first moment of like, wow, I made it. I am a boss, I've made it. When I hadn't made it at all. It was all fun and games when I'd be pulled into creative meetings, and some of my ideas for like stuff that wasn't even my job, like creative campaigns for a TV commercial for a company, we would all just brainstorm and anyone would throw out ideas. And there was times where my creative ideas as the programmer, I wasn't even a creative director or a brand strategist, and the copywriter would be like, oh, that's a really good idea, Sean. He'd be like scribbling it down. And the final production commercial that you would see on TV, even though I didn't work on the campaign, I'd be like, oh, that's my idea. That's literally the idea that I said in the meeting that I pitched. So that was all fun and games, and living in Portland was like fun and distracting enough to not worry that my pay could be higher. I'm like, fuck it, I got a job, I got a new laptop, I'm able to afford a nice bike, and I'm having fun in Portland, so whatever, I'll work on the pay eventually. The social media era, like I think my, Instagram was invented in like, I think 2014 or something like that, right? Maybe 2010, I can't remember. It was rough at first. It was like extremely low resolution photos of lunch and stuff. That's like all it was for a while. So it wasn't what it is today. It wasn't this advertising juggernaut, and this social media crap hadn't been invented yet. And so it was like we were inventing the social media culture, which is like branding and advertising. Like I was a part of the movement of people before social media was widespread and branding, and everyone had to have a personal brand and personal brand voice and logo, and there wasn't the concept of like shorts, like short form content didn't exist yet. So at this job, we were at the forefront of the type of agencies that were like onto that before it was in the public. We were making short form content all the time to promote our different campaigns. We would make like merch for the shop, and then we would give it out for different promotional things, and we would make short form content walking around Portland just trying to look really cool. It was all about like, we're so cool making this content. Don't you wish you were cool like us in Portland, Oregon, in the Pearl District? And that was kind of the vibe. So that was valuable experience to be able to use in the social media era once that shit really got taking off in the years that followed that. And it felt like exciting, I guess, at the time to be a part of that culture and to shape the very format of like short form campaign type things. So where did it all go wrong then? How did I lose the job? What did I learn from it? Things took a turn on a project. There was one particular manager who was located in another city, in another office of the company, one of the founding CTOs of the company. We had a project that was descending into more like when you hear traditional stories of nightmares of SaaS applications and working on them. It was descending into that kind of thing where just the deadlines were really hard to hit and the hours were really long and the type of programming that was needed was really hard. It was like an accounting software, SaaS accounting software for a really major company. It was Panasonic, actually. I'll just say that. It was just getting rough. I came in like Christmas Eve till like 11:30 at night trying to hit an end of year deadline for the customer, coming into the office in the Pearl District at midnight, like still working 12-hour days. So I was hitting the full burnout point, and this particular guy, this particular CTO, he was never there. He was not at our exact office. He didn't know what things looked like day to day, who was working how hard. He would just issue commands. I need this faster. You guys aren't doing enough, or this kind of thing. And this guy is like incredibly hardcore Christian, like at the intersection of coding and Christianity. I don't want to reveal names throughout the series. I'm probably saying too much, but he was coding as a personal hobby outside of work, a Bible code app where it was like pseudoscience, like numerology, trying to decode messages of the Bible and stuff like that. So 27-year-old me, obviously I couldn't believe how unbelievably lame that was, like offensively lame to me. People really liked me there. I got along great. I did good work. But then every so often when I had to interact with this one guy who didn't even know me in person very much, I would only see him at like holiday parties, stuff like that. It would always be some weird interaction. We were not on the same wavelength, different energy boiling over on this project where he's stressed out and burnt out, I'm burnt out, and he was sending group emails to the whole dev team and they were getting increasingly agitated. And I just kind of snapped one day. This is how I lost the job. I kind of snapped one day because I was giving everything to the coding. I understood the project was hard. I understood it was going to be a long haul. I was putting in extra hours. I was literally trying to be the best developer I could be to get this thing off the ground. coding weeks and weeks. And then he emailed like 10 people on a group email thread, amounting to like telling us to go in a whole different technical direction on the project. You should do it this way. And I felt certain that that was idiotic. I was like, I don't care if this guy's the CTO, it's a fucking idiotic architecture to do for this, and he's gonna throw away weeks of work that I've done, and I'm like 90% of the way there, and he's basically asking for us to go back and do it a stupider way and take even more time to get there. And there's a way that you could handle that professionally and a way you could bring that up, but I was so burnt out and already just conflicted with this guy that I wrote an email that was totally out of line. Looking back now, 20 years of hindsight later, totally out of line. I just berated the guy, and I did reply all, and I knew it was like risky, but I'm just like, I don't fucking care. I'm gonna keep it real as fuck. At the agency, I always had the impression that that's what we were about. I had the impression, oh, we keep it real. We're not like a stiff office environment. We've got beer in the fridge. We spend half a day going out to lunch sometimes and just walking around Portland. That's how cool we are. So I was trained in this mentality. I thought we just kept it real. I thought it was all about keeping it real, and I kept it way too real. It would be so cringe if I read this email again today. I don't remember what it was, but it was essentially 3 paragraphs of like roasting this guy. It's like, that is idiotic. That's the dumbest decision. This and that and that. You're behind on the times. You're this, you're that. And on a reply all too, not even just directly to him. So I can't say specifically what I was thinking or specifically where my mind was at, but I know I was incredibly burnt out, already just in a state of over it. And I honestly, it didn't occur to me that that could be like a fireable thing, like you're roasting the co-founder of the company. It never even like crossed my mind. I thought maybe we would get into some fight about it and eventually sort it out, was the way I was thinking about it. So basically like the next day or something, a couple days later, I got fired. He like sent the command down, and then the guy from my office, who was like my supervisor, my technical boss, was like really bummed to fire me, but he like got the order from higher up over him. You got to get rid of that guy. And so this was a great learning moment. This was a learning moment about professionalism and about email-based communication and about group replies. Incredibly learning moment. I instantly knew when I was fired in that moment, like I fully embodied all of the lessons. Like I got it. I was like, oh, I get it. I was not professional. I understand. And so ever since that moment, this is how you grow in your career. You have learning moments. And I was like, wow, that was really stupid. So if somehow, some way, if this particular guy, if that sounds like you, if you end up seeing this for any reason, I don't think he ever will. I don't think there's any reason he would ever see this, but if you end up seeing this, I want to say, even though we have our differences, you're hardcore Christian, I'm a hardcore atheist, and we disagreed about everything and had our differences, I want to look straight in the camera and say, I'm sorry for sending that email. I was 100% out of line. It was not professional. I hadn't yet learned my lessons, and you were right to fire me, and it was out of line. And that is a genuine apology. And I was just a kid learning lessons. That's what I want to say about that. So I held the job for like 2 years. Thought I was gonna be there like 10 years, develop all kinds of cool shit. Thought I was gonna own a house. It just absolutely did not go down that way. After 2 years of grinding, I had a stronger portfolio to show, picked up a little bit of skills, and lived in a better city, had a better bike, but I had $0 in savings. Student loan bills still due every month, nothing in savings, and home prices in the market had jumped, I don't know, 200%, on their way to 300%, making home buying totally out of the question. I thought I was like 2 years away from buying a house in Portland at that time. Completely dreaming, zero in savings, totally out of the question. And I just felt totally kicked to the curb. I felt like I was starting from scratch again, and I had to figure something out. Zero savings in Portland, I had to make something happen. That's chapter 1 of the origin story lore of how I became Sean from Portland, and we're going to continue with the next phases of my career that unfolded after that. If you like the storytelling, smash the subscribe, come back. And it's really just about storytelling and sharing my story. If there's anything interesting or you're just entertained by it, stick around and drop a comment. Tell me about your jobs. See you next time.